Hello and welcome to Encryption, the tech tips and tutorials channel. If you work in IT and especially if you want to become a DevOps engineer, cloud engineer or system administrator, there are some Linux commands you must know. These are not advanced commands. These are daily used commands. You will see them in real production servers, cloud virtual machines, interviews, troubleshooting scenarios. In this video, we will do three things. First, we will understand the most important Linux commands. Second, we will see simple examples so the commands make sense. Third, at the end, you will practice them yourself. We will also cover a short recap and practice checklist, interview questions with answers, common mistakes and misconceptions. This video is part of Linux Zero to Hero series, so we are building a strong foundation step by step. Whenever you log into a Linux system, the first question you should ask is, where am I right now? Linux uses a directory structure similar to folders in Windows or Mac OS. To find your current location, we use the pwd command. pwd stands for print working directory. When you run this command, Linux shows the full path of the directory you are currently working in. For example, if Linux shows /home/user, it means you are inside the home directory under the folder of a specific user. This is important because many Linux commands depend on your current location. To see what is inside the current directory, we use the ls command. ls lists files and directories. By default, it shows only visible files and folders. Now that we know where we are and what is inside a directory, let's learn how to see more details about those files. Now let's make file listing more useful. We use ls-l. The -l option means long listing. This shows file permissions, file owner, file size, date and time. In real environments, engineers almost always use ls-l. You might notice permissions and ownership in this output. Don't worry, if this does not make sense right now, we will cover file permissions and ownership in detail later in this series. There is another important option, ls-a. The -a option means all files, including hidden ones. Files starting with a dot are hidden. Many Linux configuration files are hidden by default, which is why ls-a is very important. Now that we know how to list and inspect files, the next logical step is learning how to move between directories. To change the directories, we use the cd command. Cd means change directory. If you type cd // you move to the root directory. This is the top level directory in Linux. If you run ls-al here, you will see the system directories like bin, etc, var and home. If you type cd ~, you move to the home directory. Every user in Linux has a home directory. This is your personal workspace where user-specific files live. The safest place for beginners to practice. Think of it like Windows. You log in, go to see, users, and your username. That is your personal space. In Linux, this is usually /home/username. If you type cd /, you move own directory up. This is useful when navigating back through the directory tree. Now that you can move around the system, let's look at a directory you will see very often in real jobs. If you go to /var/log, you enter the log directory. This is where system logs, application logs are stored. As a DevOps or system engineer, you will spend a lot of time reading logs from the directory. Don't worry if directories like /var or /etc look confusing right now. We will fully explain the Linux systems and directory structure in another video in the series. So far, we have been looking at the existing files and folders. Next, let's learn how to create our own. Now let's create files and directories. To create a directory, we use mkdir command. Sometimes we call it as mkdir. mkdir means make directory. For example, you can create a folder called test. To create a file, we use toss command. Toss creates an empty file. This is commonly used to create placeholder files, prepare configuration files, create files before editing. When you want to create nested directories, that means directory inside directory, you use mkdir -p. The -p option creates parent directories automatically. This is extremely common in automation scripts, DevOps pipelines. For now, focus on how the command works. We will later discuss where files should be created safely. Once the file exists, the next thing engineers do is read their contents, especially log files. Reading files is one of the most common Linux tasks. Many beginners start with the cat command. Cat prints the entire content of a file on the screen. This is fine for small files, but for large files or logs, cat is not recommended. Professionals use the less command. Less allows you to scroll, search, and exit safely. It does not load the entire file into the memory at once. If you ever see permissions errors while reading files, don't worry. File access and permissions will be covered later in the series. Sometimes you only want part of a file. For that, we use head. Head shows the beginning of a file. Also, we use tail. Tail shows the end of a file. Tail is especially used for logs because new log entries are added at the bottom. Now that we can read files, let's learn how to manage them, copying them, moving, and deleting. To copy files, we use the cp command. Cp creates a duplicate of a file or directory. To move or rename files, we use the mb command. mb command can move a file, rename a file. Understanding this dual behavior is very important. Now comes a dangerous command. The rm command deletes files. Linux does not have a recycle bin. Once you delete something using rm, it is gone permanently. To delete directories, we use rm -r. The -r option means recursive, which deletes everything inside a directory. Many production incidents have happened because of incorrect rm usage. Later in the series, we will discuss permissions and safe practices that reduce the risk. Since Linux has many commands, the next question is, how do we get help when we forget something? You do not need to memorize all commands. Linux provides built-in help. The man command opens the manual page for any command. Professional engineers use manual pages regularly. Another quick question is --help. This shows a short summary of available options. Knowing how to read help pages is an important Linux skill. Now that we have covered the commands, it's time to practice and reinforce what you have learned. Now pause the video and practice. Use pwd to check where you are. Use ls, ls-l, and ls-a. Move using cd, cd space dot dot, and cd space tilde. Create directories with mkdir and mkdir-p. Create files using touch. Read files using cat, less, head, and tail. Copy and rename files using cp and mb. You don't need to remember everything. Practice is more important than memorization. Now it's quiz time. If you can answer these, you are doing well. If you could not catch them up well, revise the video. Interview questions with answers. What does the pwd command do? It shows the current working directory, which tells you where you are in the Linux file system. What is the difference between ls and ls-l? ls lists files and directories, while ls-l provides detailed information such as permissions, owner, size, and timestamp. What is the purpose of ls-a command? It lists all files, including hidden files that start with a dot when upon content configuration settings. What does cd --tilde do? It takes the user to their home directory, regardless of the current location. What is the difference between cd // and cd /..? cd / moves to the root directory, while cd /..., moves own directory level up from the current directory. Why is the /var/log directory important? It stores system and application logs, which are critical for monitoring and troubleshooting issues. What is the difference between cat and less? Cat prints the entire file at once, while less allows scrolling and is more suitable for large files or logs. What does the mkdir -p command do? It creates directories along with their parent directories if they do not already exist. What is the difference between cp and mb? cp copies a file or directory, while mb moves or renames a file or directory. Why is the rm command considered dangerous? Because Linux does not have a recycle bin by default, and deleted files cannot be easily recovered. Common mistakes and misconceptions. Thinking Linux has a recycle bin. In Linux, when you delete a file using the rm command, it is removed permanently. There is no recycle bin by default, so accidental deletion can lead to data loss. Practicing commands in system directories. System directories like //etc/bin or /var contain critical files. Running commands here by mistake can break the system or cause services to stop working. This is why beginners should practice inside the home directory. Using rm-r without checking the path. The rm-r command deletes everything inside a directory recursively. If you run it in the wrong path, you can delete important files or entire directories, sometimes beyond recovery. Many real production incidents have happened because of this mistake. Using cat for large files. The cat command prints the content of the entire file at once. For large files or logs, this can flood the terminal, make it slow, or even freeze the session. This is why tools like less are preferred for large files. Try to memorize instead of practicing. Memorizing commands without practice makes Linux feel confusing and stressful. Regular practice helps you build muscle memory, which is how professionals actually work. Understanding and repetition are far more important than memorization. Avoiding these mistakes will save your time, prevent frustration, and make Linux much easier and safer to work with. In this video, we covered the most important Linux commands every engineer must know. We learned how to check where we are in the system, list files and directories, move between folders, create files and directories, read file content and logs, copy, move and delete files, use built-in help when we are stuck. At this stage, you don't need to be perfect. What matters most is understanding basics and practicing them regularly. If you can comfortably use these commands, you already have a strong foundation in Linux. In the next video, we will look at the Linux file and folder structure and understand what directories like //home, /etc and /var are actually used for. If you are following the Linux 0 to Hero series, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next part. Keep practicing and I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.